Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peej.
And I'm Mac.
And Mac, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to get into the left coast, not necessarily the Snoop Dogg type of left coast, but certainly going to be in California. And we're going to delve into some interesting stories that have gone on there and sort of give our little take on that.
When I saw the title and you had said left coast meaning California, I'm like, hey, there are other states on the left coast here.
I know, but California is kind of known as the left coast. I mean, Oregon and Washington definitely a part of the left coast. Don't get me wrong, but when people think of the left coast, they think of Cali, I think. And again, we're dating ourselves terribly, terribly. But we have some good stories ahead. I know that for sure.
Right on. Well, I have not seen this video, and I don't think you've seen a good chunk of this video. So, our reactions will be very darn authentic. And without further ado, here we go. Whoa.
Hey, oh, there we go. That's awesome, by the way.
The castle was originally constructed in 1894 as the Preston School of Industry, a reform school for unruly youth and abandoned children. The
Hey, there's Trump.
Minister history includes harsh punishments, toxic dunking baths, and incidents of foul play, resulting in the deaths of 2 staff. Singer-songwriter Merle Haggard and actor Lee J. Cobb are rumoured to have been former inmates. The
Inmate.
castle's
Wait,
foreboding facade
Merle
is
Haggard.
said to house many eerie presences which are identified by nighttime investigators. These have included unexplained shadows and voices, orbs, and the recurring scent of a woman's perfume when no one is wearing any. Some people have reported being scratched by invisible hands.
all right. Sorry, so that was the
So
Preston.
just based on that, I had never heard of that before, to be
No,
honest. I
me
never
neither.
heard of any of those people being involved with something like that. Merle Haggard, she said Haggard, but anybody who's an American knows who Merle Haggard is. Um, again, all those things sound and feel as though they are not intelligent haunts. Except for the scratches. Maybe some of those are possibly, but the scent and the sounds and all that kind of stuff feels something like that. But I had never. That is amazing. I never knew that Merle Haggard was involved in anything like that. That is pretty impressive.
Yeah, Preston Castle. I mean, but they did say inmate. Is it because there was a uh
That looks the way they're kind of describing it seems more like a mental
like a
institution
mental institution? That's
or
right.
like a
Okay.
rehab place. Maybe that was kind of the same thing back in those days.
Sure. Just wanted to confirm because I mean,
It wasn't
yeah.
this was like Folsom Prison or something like with Johnny Cash. Totally. Yeah,
Well,
indeed.
places like that, like the castle, or I mean, just an old kind of mental institution, those carry, for the
Mhm.
most part, a lot of bad juju, right? Bad energy. And
Yeah, and that leads to me to be it's more residual
yeah,
type haunting than
totally
anything. It's
agree.
just sort of the bad experiences just sort of soak themselves into the environment.
Yeah, it soaks itself into the walls, that's for sure. You can see
Yeah,
it. Those watching on YouTube. I mean,
at
it's
least. Yeah, yeah, nasty.
pretty freaking haggard. All right, here's the next one.
Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, Los Angeles. The luxurious Roosevelt opened in 1927 during Hollywood's
Mm.
golden era and accordingly has a star-studded history. It hosted the first Oscars and many film premiere after-parties and is now home to some very glamorous ghosts. Reportedly, after the Roosevelt's first major renovation in 1984,
Innovation.
spirits started to become very active
Yeah.
and seemed
Yep.
to love returning to the glitzy location through what psychic Peter James has called a tubular shaft, a very cold spot near the Academy Room, which creates a
Tubular
doorway for
shaft.
visiting entities. Marilyn Monroe apparently posed for her first magazine photos at the Roosevelt's pool and is now said to haunt the hotel halls and room 1200, where she resided for 2 years as her modelling career took off. A
Ah,
major
I didn't know that.
spokesperson told The Hollywood Reporter that many guests see Marilyn in a mirror she used.
Oh,
A cleaner was once dusting the mirror, which was then hanging in the manager's office, when she saw the reflection of a sad blonde woman. Turning to
hmm.
speak to her, the employee found that no one was behind her. Yet, on looking back into the mirror, the woman's image was still there.
Oh,
Lisa, of Contact
Interesting.
Research Investigation Specialists, has conducted a paranormal investigation with parapsychologist Dr. Barry Taft. The investigators recorded an
Never heard of that guy,
entity
but
in Marilyn's previous room which pleaded, "Help me."
A little dark, so I'm going to turn that one off.
hmm.
The apparition of silver screen idol Montgomery Clift has been attributed with patting guests on the shoulders. Mysterious trumpet music has been heard coming from
Mm.
room 928, where he stayed for 3 months while filming From Here to Eternity, and from the hall
Oh,
outside. Maids and investigators in the room have claimed to be watched by Clift's ghost. The apparition of actress Carol Lombard has also been reported as floating around the upper floors. In the Blossom Ballroom, where the first Oscars were held, 2 ghosts have been detected.
really? Hmm.
One tuxedoed man radiates an anxious cold spot, and psychics report that he attended one of the Academy Awards banquets. He was nominated for an award but unsuccessful, so perhaps trying to resolve his disappointment from beyond. Another man in a white suit plays the piano in the Blossom
Really?
Ballroom, but disappears when he is noticed by the living. Several entities are said to stay in the empty rooms at the Roosevelt, will lift the phones and call the switchboard, their disembodied voices often heard. Security guards have
The
spotted what they
switchboard.
thought were people swimming in the pool on security cameras very late at night and in the early hours when the pool is closed. On approaching the pool, there is no one visible there. One guard reported this to his colleague on his walkie-talkie, also waving his hands at the camera. The guard watching the camera vision later told him that he had been waving his hands through the apparition's head. The ghost had obediently got out of the pool and was standing right next to the poolside guard.
Hmm. A place like that, it's got a lot of urban legends and a lot of legends that are allegedly. I didn't know that that's the kind of place they had the original Academy Awards or the Oscars, and it's kind of
Right.
interesting. I can see. I think hotels are kind of overrated and underrated as places that do have paranormal activity. I think some amazing things happen at places like that, and people do die in places like that, and it might be a situation where there is a haunting. Everything that she's describing seems to me more like just stories rather than actual, like, it doesn't feel like that'd be a place that I feel I would love to go there to investigate it, but I wouldn't have any expectations of finding anything, if that makes any sense.
It does. And, hotels, especially something as old as the Roosevelt Hotel, again, they're the most possible location for these kinds of activities, especially if it's something that's been told over and over again. I mean, if there's multiple sightings of the
Yeah,
same,
yeah.
actor or whatnot, like the Marilyn Monroe in room 1200 or Montgomery Clift in room 920. If
Yeah,
it's the same
they've
kind of.
lived there, right? So it's kind
Yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
weird
like,
kind of
first of
situation.
all, she lived there for 2 years. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
thing. Like, back then, that's not a rare thing to happen where celebrities or whatnot would live in hotels because obviously everything's taken care of for them, right? And for
Right.
and a lot of times the studios will pay for their expenses there. But anyway, so that's enough time for like an imprint to actually happen in a room, right? Or in a space. And
Mhm, mhm.
honestly, I mean, like the all of those stories, yes, I mean there could be legends and there could just be stories, but having had an experience myself, I'm not too quick to dismiss them, especially like the one where the maid was cleaning room 1200 and sees the blonde lady and actually was compelled to turn around and talk to the lady, like whatever, like to say whatever, because that's what did she need, because that's very similar to what happened to me.
Mm.
My own experience
Well,
at the Marriott Hotel downtown. I think I've told you the story before.
yeah, yeah, you have. We got to tell the people that story, I think, a little bit more because I think that that does show, and I think it does kind of, I haven't found anybody dead in a hotel. I found somebody who we thought was dead in a hotel before,
Hmm.
but I think those things happen a lot more, and certainly things. a lot of positive things happen, a lot of negative things happen in hotels, not necessarily motel. Well, but I guess all across the spectrum. But
Right.
and so it's not that surprising. I guess my whole thing is that it's LA, it's Hollywood. What do you
Yeah.
believe? What do you don't believe? And so you kind of have to look at the really what the data says. And are there 50,000 reports of something, or are there just like a couple people, or are they just saying, oh yeah, I saw so and so. So you
Yeah.
have to be very, very careful with some of those situations.
Yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and certainly to your point, I mean, if the like yeah, the data would rule here, right? If it's something that's repeated, if a story that's repeated and it's the same situation, the same stories, a lot of similarities, you can't immediately dismiss. Obviously, you want to take things with a grain of salt, like I said, but yeah, I mean, I just think that hotels,
Experiences matter. The personal experiences matter, and I think that's kind of what kind of rules here a little bit at the same time. Is like, I can talk all I want about evidence. Have I seen anything in a hotel? No, I can't say that I have. Have I seen a ton of evidence? No, but there's been certain things, and I think everybody has to sort of hold on to that and sort of take it with, as you say, with a grain of
the
salt.
the tuxedo man story is the one that resonates with me the most because that's the one that's very similar to my experience, and so.
Mm,
Yeah, interesting.
that's
Interesting.
badass.
All right, here's the next one. And yeah, I might tell the full story of the next in a future episode.
We will.
Here we go. Next one.
Bodie State Historic Park, Bodie. Bodie is a gold rush era gold mining ghost town, now
Mm.
deserted. More than 100 structures remain, as well as some supposed spirits of prospectors. A strange story attaches to Bodie, where the last producing mine closed after World War II. With only 6 people remaining in the old settlement, 5 of these would soon meet untimely ends. First, one man slew his wife, after which 3 men plugged the violent husband. According to the legend, the killer's ghost would regularly visit these 3 men, brandishing his fist. Soon, all 3 passed away from mysterious illnesses.
Hmm.
I mean, again, those are kind of stories, but you can't discount those stories. It's interesting that there's a lot of violence behind a lot of the
Yeah.
stories that they're talking about, but that case, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at, yeah, definitely a lot of violence happened on the East Coast, and as they moved out west. But it seems like a lot of the stories that have occurred for the Oregon Trail and even before that, in where the 49ers coming out to the gold rush in California. We're talking about the left coast. There's got to be so many stories that we're not even aware of, like the ghost towns and places that have just all I don't doubt that at all. I mean, I don't doubt that there's so many things on the East Coast, certainly, because it's been the most populated and most likely to happen. But more of the dramatic things have certainly happened out west. So you gotta, if you're a ghost hunter or someone who believes in, spirits and ghosts and things like that, look at the individual stories and listen to the, look at the lore, but also look at what the actions are that may have caused some of those things. That makes any sense.
It does. I mean, in the California Gold Rush and prospectors, and often when it comes to ghost stories, or at least the notion of spirits remaining in particular locations, often it involves like tragic deaths, right? So like being murdered or,
Yeah,
or
violence of
not.
some type. Yeah, yeah.
Those are the ones that we've kind of learned or along the way that kind of has the more of the potential to imprint in a particular location. So I don't take those stories lightly, especially if I'm gonna be there alone. But to your point, I mean, you
Hell
gotta
yeah.
yeah. But to your point, you got to make sure that you're kind of looking at this with skeptical eyes as well.
Yeah.
All right, here's the next one.
Humboldt State Historic Park, Eureka.
Ah,
This historic former fort's remote location overlooks a rugged bluff in Humboldt Bay. Its
Hmm.
eerie ambience derives from the supposed ghost of a deceased commander who succumbed to malaria in 1897 within the old hospital. He is now seen staring out of the old building's windows as hikers stroll past.
Hmm.
Strange phenomena heard during the night, coming from inside the hospital, include the sound of heavy objects being dragged across the floor or deliberately dropped, and lights turning on and off. Angry and frightening entities have been reported in the area since the 1950s. One witness
Hmm.
reported to Backpackerverse that she and her husband were returning to their car at night there when they spotted a figure sitting on its hood. Her
Hmm.
annoyed husband ran towards it, only to rush back and drag her away in terror. He described the entity to her as not human, with long teeth and mismatched, threatening eyes. The
Yikes.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's again, that's another and you get to listen to the stories that sometimes we're telling you about, and that seems like there's something really weird going on there as far as like more demonic type things
Right.
and dark spirits that can happen, and I believe that. I mean, I think that can definitely happen. The guy looking out of the window, I don't think that's like a demonic spirit. That could just be some dude that's like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still showing myself. But yeah, I mean, that's the other one. Again, when you hear those types of stories, it could be just nonsense, clearly. But those I almost seem to me to be more believable because they're way outside of the norm. And okay, so you're either dealing with someone who's on drugs, someone's got a like a mental condition. But if you build up a legend, it's kind of hard to like sort of replicate those same types of stories. And if that's one that's become kind of known for the area, that's not a good thing.
Fort Humboldt State Historic Park. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Never heard of it. Yeah, but it's yeah.
you
A
never heard of
lo-
Fort Humboldt?
No.
Neither have I.
I mean, we live in the Pacific Northwest, which is just a little bit north of this, but I think Eureka, I think, is Northern California, so it's not that far away.
It is Northern
But
California, and Fort Humboldt is closer to the actual coast. So, um, but it seems like it's a old military installation, and so again, that carries a lot of energy, man.
Yeah,
Here's
and it cannot be. I
oh,
don't think you can overlook a lot of these stories. You just have to listen and look at the evidence and sort of gauge for yourself. But I mean, again, if there's evidence there, you got to kind of look at that. And again, anything on the coast, water,
yeah,
minerals, that type of drama, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a haunting there. The
very
the
good point.
the demonic thing with the teeth and the mismatching eyes, I don't know if that's just some sort of crackhead that started that story. They saw David Bowie up at the Fort Humboldt. But I always take those things kind of seriously as well.
And you got to understand also, if the person reporting what state of mind they were at the time, right? So
That's why I mentioned the crackhead. Exactly.
I thought you were talking about the crack. It could have been a crackhead that they were
It could have
seeing.
been the crackhead doing that, but I think more likely it's the person sort of reporting that, and probably not crackhead so much in that area. I mean, it could be that they were high, they had a dream,
It's a
whatever.
Mary Jane.
Yeah, something along those lines there. But again, there are I do think demons are real. I'll go out and say it right now. I think I think they're real. Certainly something to be watching out for.
For sure. All right, here is the next one.
The Queen Mary, Long Beach. Now permanently docked in
Ah,
Long Beach, the Queen Mary was once known as the Grey Ghost and has been labelled by Time magazine as one of the world's top 10 haunted sites. Now a
mm,
hotel and museum, during World War II, the Queen Mary served as a transport
look
ship
at all
for
these
Allied
people.
troops. At one stage, the massive liner collided with her escort ship and, in fleeing the enemy, was forced to leave its crew of 239 men to perish at sea. Visitors report screams and
That's
violent
fake, but
noises
yeah.
in the boiler room, where an 18-year-old sailor was severed in half when trapped by a heavy door. The spirit of a young girl also haunts the ship as she plays a nightly game of hide and seek with guests around the swimming pool. The ship's Queen's Salon also seems a hotbed of paranormal activity, with a woman in white, apparently a former first-class passenger, seen there gliding across the floor in a long gown. dancing
Mm.
to a silent orchestra. Suite B30 had to be closed to the public due to the many complaints of its being haunted, the most common phenomena being disembodied footsteps, taps turning on and off, and toilets flushing on their own. A male passenger is said to have passed away in the room in 1948. In 1966, a woman staying in the room claimed that she had woken up when the bed covers were dragged off her, only to see a
Hmm.
man standing at the end of her bed.
Oh, ho, ho, ho,
She
ho.
screamed and rang for the steward, but the man reportedly vanished into thin air.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard of a lot of on boat hauntings. That's pretty interesting, actually. I need to do a little bit more research into that because a lot of these you hear of ghost ships, ships that have sank, people who couldn't possibly interact or anything like that. But now this is an interesting one was it the
Queen Mary.
QE2? Yeah, the Queen Mary and people having experiences on the actual boat. That is pretty interesting. That's pretty rare.
Yeah, and I've seen some videos of this, the Queen Mary, and did hear about the girl in the swimming
Ah,
pool. Did hear about the poor guy who got severed in half because the door closed
yeah.
on him. And you know, the I've seen videos where they were, I don't know, psychics that claim to actually sense things, and they also, first of all, they claim to not know what the heck's going on. I mean, they know they're going on the Queen Mary, but they claim to not know what the stories were. And the psychic or these psychics actually pick up on the actual, one of the psych. I mean, I think they were in the swimming pool area, and one of the psychics like, I sense a little girl here or something. And so, of course,
Hmm.
people are like, oh, that's cool. We didn't tell you about that, but you actually picked up on it. Who knows? I mean, who knows if they clearly didn't know or whatnot.
I mean, boats are kind of a weird thing because, like, unless you like, say, like, just talk about the Titanic. Could you go down and if you have the technology, like, go undersea and it can raise it up, you can do that kind of thing too. But you actually go down and see if you can experience anything paranormal because if there's anything that was attached to something, that would be it, right? You could definitely imagine that and even like submersed ships like from the 1800s and the 1700s. I mean, was there something attached to those types of even Pearl Harbor? I would love to go to Pearl Harbor and sort of see a little bit about kind of how I felt about that area. If there was boats are like I said, that's a different kind of situation, and sinking or floating, sinkers and floaters.
Right.
Sort of looking at that, I've never really thought about that too much, but I think that'd be in kind of an amazing investigation if someone wants to sponsor us.
All right, let's continue here.
Aldobi de Capistrano, San Juan Capistrano. Ghost hunters flock to San Juan Capistrano during Halloween, when
The
reputedly
swallows.
shimmering apparitions appear of the many people who perished in the 1812 earthquake that destroyed the mission.
Oh,
The three ghosts who frequent the San Juan Capistrano mission can herald their arrival with tobacco aromas, and sometimes the bells can be heard tolling when there is no one around. The original court and jail is now a wine cellar, said to be haunted by the spirit of a former prisoner. More eerily, some report seeing a headless friar at the restaurant door,
Again.
sometimes wielding an axe. Nearby on Los Rios Street and beneath a large pepper tree, a dark-haired woman in white may sit simply staring at you. Her background is unknown, but often guessed at. Some say she is La Llorona, the legendary weeping woman, a
La
travelling spirit
Llorona.
from Mexico seeking her missing children.
I mean, that is not an American bred spirit. I mean, that is definitely from, and that was Mexico before. I mean, a lot of people need to understand that. It's like that was not the original part of America. It became a territory and then obviously state. But the Ya Llorona is very interesting. And, there's the Kuntilanak, very similar to that in Indonesia. Luckily, I have enough experience in that manner of things to sort of know a little bit about that. But very similar spirits worldwide.
Hmm.
And so I believe that some of those, not necessarily demons, but like evil spirits, definitely kind of make sense to me. I didn't know about that. That's actually really, kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, those old places, especially in an area of the country that was fairly undeveloped, for lack of a better term. I mean, there weren't a lot of big cities at the time,
Yeah,
it's
the
like smaller
territory. Yeah,
towns,
yeah.
so um kind of remote and kind of prone also to a lot of like unfortunate like violent deaths and or untimely deaths, right? And so those kind of linger, those energies linger and so I don't doubt that these are things that people experience, but I don't know about the La Llorona though. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a stretch, even though, like you said, I mean, that used to be.
There's similar stories around the world of different, and, ladies of white, but not necessarily ladies of white. They got some other ulterior motives behind that. It's not just showing up on a balcony somewhere. It's like they got some a little bit of evil spirit kind of thing
Well,
showing up.
yeah, and then of course there's the headless monk, that's wielding a hatchet. Did he cut off his head accidentally?
Yeah, well, that's true. You got to take it with a grain of California salt.
All right, here we go. The next one.
Hotel del Coronado, San Diego. In
Nice.
1892, a 24-year-old housekeeper from Los Angeles named Kate Morgan checked into the luxurious waterfront resort alone under the false name Lottie A. Bernard. She spent 5 days wandering around the hotel, with some believing that she was waiting for a husband or lover's arrival. She was then found lifeless on a staircase leading to the beach, having seemingly ended her life. The beautiful stranger, as she was named by the press at the time, now seems to haunt her former room, numbered 3327. The harmless but eerie phenomena range from soft footsteps around the bed to pillows stacked in a pyramid,
That's
unexplained
this guy.
noises, scents and sounds, flickering lights, objects moving by themselves, and the TV turning itself on and off. Guests have claimed to see Kate's restless ghost wandering the hallways, garden, and beach. On Valentine's Day 2000, a young couple witnessed a string of supernatural events which included covers being ripped off them in the middle of the night.
Hmm.
I mean, most of that sounds like a bunch of BS as far as that final one. I mean, cable TV and hotel rooms going bad happens a lot, I would
Yeah,
say. Seeing somebody on the beach dressed in black, yeah, sure. So that was the least compelling of anything that they had. I think that's why it was the shortest one. It was like 20 seconds, basically. And yeah, it's funny. We went, the family and I went to the Oregon coast to go to a place that randomly had like a power outage. Um, these kind of things happen. So I would
yeah, and
say accept that and move on.
yeah, it's an old hotel. All right, it's an old
And
hotel.
they're trying to make some money out. That's the one that was the least compelling to me, but whatever.
I mean, this video probably did not do it justice. The Hotel del Coronado is one of the most,
Oh, so you've actually heard of that one before?
I've heard of the Hotel del Coronado, yeah, as one of the
Oh,
most
okay.
haunted locations in the U.S. And we might have a
Boom.
deeper dive.
Sponsor.
Huh?
Sponsor.
Yeah, but it's actually the hotel that was also in that movie Somewhere in Time. I don't know if you remember that movie with Jane Seymour. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, that was the hotel where it was filmed as well. But yeah, I mean, ghosts, sightings, ghost experiences, paranormal experiences, especially in more remote, formerly remote locations, older locations, established places where a lot of bad things happen, and as much as a lot of good things happen, a lot of like memorable situations occurred, and certainly I think, like I said, tend to imprint into the walls, tend to imprint into the locations, at least from, what we have come to learn in terms of hauntings, right? Especially
Yeah.
digital hauntings.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you look at Oregon, certainly the Oregon Trail has its own things. Washington has its own things. The Columbia River and between Oregon and Washington has its own things. But yeah, California has this kind of mystique. As far as the 49ers and the gold rush and all these kind of
Right.
things that can happen, and the cities that kind of grew up around there. And so you're going to get a lot of those, for whether they're real or not. You're going to get urban legends. You might get some actual hauntings mixed in with that, and then urban legends. And then enough time has passed where you're going to get some stories that are really compelling. I think a couple of those to me were pretty compelling. Some of the others maybe not so much, but I mean, it's kind of why you look into this kind of stuff. You kind of want to see what else is going on outside of the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, if you enjoy this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe and on YouTube, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.